to talk a little bit about using AI as a true teammate in the creative process, balancing innovation and governance. So we have a lot to say, but we want to move quickly.
I'll move as quick. I talk fast anyway.
Yeah, I know, as do I, but I was hoping to put up a few slides. Look, I wanted to set a little bit of a baseline, and this is almost like a summary of this conference, Bill. One, introduce yourself, just so get everyone comfortable with you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for sticking around. I'm Bill Snyder. I'm the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Clearview. And clearly this session, they wanted people to wrap up the day that had the most hair, so that's why we're here. So we'll be passing out combs, for your travel home.
So I wanted to kind of summarize the conference and give the best presentation of the next 2 days. But one, it's pretty apparent that content has risen for a lot of reasons. It's a big part of the go-to-market mix. Our analysis shows that the average B2B firm, financial firm, is spending between 10 and 20 or 30% of their total go-to-market on what we call content, everything we're talking about here. Yet very few organizations actually have that budgeted. It also supports a wide array of channels: paid media, owned media, shared media, media with lips, channels with lips, human beings, and things like that. So just wanted to jump ahead. All of these channels, owned, earned, shared, paid, and sales and agent channels, are managed by content. Content has a big impact on there's a lot of stakeholders, dozens. In some of my clients, but if you add up the agencies, there's literally hundreds of people writing content. And we create hundreds or even thousands of assets. So content is a big deal, but it has a big impact on media performance. Our research shows that if you create the right content, align the right content across paid, owned, and shared, you get a big impact. I think 2 or 3 of the presentations today have shown that, and our conversations about GEO and search engine confirm content impacts our performance, as well as our brands and our storytelling. And at the end of the day, every organization has a content factory, or a content supply chain, or a content engine, whether it's visible and on the organizational chart, or whether it's invisible and unspoken. We all go through the same basic steps: planning content, sourcing content, drafting it, creating it, refining it, personalizing it, and one of the big things, governing it, assembling it, and distributing it. So I want to talk about this process. Nobody owns this process, but I think if we get to the topic at hand, as we all know, AI can help us with this process. And our thesis, your thesis, Bill, is let's not think about AI as a productivity tool or a magic formula or something. You like to think about AI as a teammate on the team. Is that a good way of thinking about it?
No doubt. So Clearview is a credit union. We compete against the largest banks really in the country, are in the area that we have our locations. And so we cannot compete on a person-by-person basis with PNC. Is based in Pittsburgh. They're our largest bank in the area, and they probably have more interns on their content team than I have in my whole entire team. So we really look at AI as that partner. Microsoft named it Copilot probably for a reason. It is that Copilot that helps my team as we're creating content and then making sure it is appropriate and routes throughout the organization. Many of these stages, AI helps us do that. And we've been able to do it faster, quicker. We've actually made decisions not to bring on new people because we think AI can cover that for us. And it really helps us in every step of the way.
So I've had a lot of conversations, and you heard my boss this morning talk about AI helped him write his book report for his boss. People will say, oh, the power of AI is in a first draft, or I'm going to lay off X number of people because of AI, or AI can just create a lot of content without me thinking. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that. We live in a very resource-constrained, compliance-constrained industry. And you're going to talk a little bit about the trade-offs between innovation, structure and trust, and how we can have a governance structure here, robots here, amazing robot cartoons, by the way, and somehow still be creative, human, and fertile in what we do. And that's some of the nuances that we talked about. So AI is not just a teammate and a brute force productivity tool, but they're a teammate in the creative process. And while we have structure, we can have creativity in that structure. So let's start with the big picture. What does it mean to think about AI as a teammate, as a tool, and how are you using AI perhaps to ensure oversight and put guardrails on what you're doing at Clearview?
Yeah, we've been fortunate for a smaller organization. We have headfirst, we are diving into AI, and so our CIO, our CISO are all on board. We've actually formed an AI steering committee made up of folks across the organization. I have a few folks on my team, on my various teams that are on that. But you have to have the guide rails and guardrails. I'm sure everybody has seen the ads that you have a human being with 6 fingers or 3 arms because no one checked it or the language just doesn't make sense. And so I always tell my teams, yes, let's use AI to create ideas, to take it a step further, create email, social post content. But we have to also double check it. And we have to make sure that it sounds like us. And so some of the AI platforms that we use have the ability to bring in our brand voice, the guidelines that we have for our brand, so that's already part of the process that we're doing. Because if we didn't do that, it would just be like any other chat tool that we have. And I'm sure everybody has seen, you ask AI to write you an email, and the next thing you know, you have a lot of dashes in all of your emails, and you have these big words that you would probably never use, but AI likes to use a lot. And so somebody else talked about making sure if you do use AI that it still sounds human, that it really sounds like the organization that it is. Pittsburgh, all of our sports team colors are black and gold. And so if we told AI to create an image and we were using the colors of a sports team that was not black and gold, it would not feel very like us. People would know that a person didn't create it, that a machine did it, and there was no oversight. So we talk a lot about oversight.
You wouldn't want like a silver star or anything like that. That wouldn't be good, in your town.
It would not go well. Yeah, would not go well.
So could you talk a little bit about your content engine, the people, the humans that are on the team, the humans that are being enabled, just to give a picture of the agencies and the folks that are involved right now?
Sure, yeah. We probably have, I would say, so we have 3 folks on the team that their job is the graphic portion of it, the images. We have another 4 or 5 folks, I'm probably going to forget somebody, that's actually creating the words that we use. And then we definitely have an outside firm that's making sure that we are placing those ads and those content in the right places. And so, yeah, we probably have 10 people, and then the agency has even more that are constantly looking at content to make sure that it matters and makes sense. The great, in the market that we are in, we have a lot of big players, and everybody's offering the same things, right? You can get a checking account anywhere. So what makes us different? And that's where we have to make sure that we can be different and talk about things that other folks in that area don't talk about. And so it's how do we differentiate? How do we be creative, but yet we want to lead, but not be so far out there that people say, I don't trust those people with my money. They're just too far out there. And we actually did that. Last year, we were a very early adopter of AI, did an awesome ad campaign. We had just changed our brand. It was our first brand campaign. We were ecstatic, and we created AI images of human beings, of a coach, of a yoga master, a doctor. And the first thing we saw on social media was, why did you use AI images? Why wouldn't you use authentic people in your content? And one of the examples was we had somebody, we should have caught this, we had somebody who was a coach who had a P on their hat, right? Pittsburgh, the Pirates, but clearly it was not the right logo. It wasn't the right font. It was just a general P, and that a lot of folks commented on that. And so it was a quick example to us that, yep, we can do this. We can turn campaigns around quickly, but we got to just triple check that we're using the right images and the right content, because folks will notice if you don't.
So that brings up the topic of governance. Governance is a design principle. You've put in some controls that allow you to do this, internal review boards, ethical guidelines. How do you stop the six fingers or the P with the wrong font? What did you learn? What human, systemic, or process governance did you put in place to help stop this?
Yeah,
Did it work?
we make sure that we route everything probably twice now, as opposed to just once. In this industry, our friends in compliance have to be involved, and so we make sure that they see everything. That's also a great use case for AI. I have some great folks, in case they're watching this, who work in compliance, but when we ask them if we should do something or not, they are a big fan of saying, here's the regulation. And if anybody's ever read any sort of regulation from a federal agency, it's a ton of words, but that doesn't say a lot. So we actually use AI a lot to dig through some of that content to understand if we can't say certain things or shouldn't, and that's also saved us. And we also, which might sound kind of weird, but every LLM, every agent, every model is good for some things and not for others. And so we do take time to take content or imagery out of one LLM, out of one model, and put it in a different one to check it, because we know that that second model might be better at research or analysis. So we actually do take data and things like that back and forth.
Do you feel like this is a burden or a bureaucracy, or do you actually find it liberating and it actually opens up freedom because you've got your back covered?
The answer is yes. It's both. There's always somebody this morning in a session I was in talked about everybody in the organization thinks that they can be somebody that can create content, who can run ads and that. So it's a little bit of a burden because every route we have to route it to a lot of people who have to approve it. But it gives us the ability to be creative and think of things that when we used to sit in a conference room and just brainstorm, we just sometimes didn't come up with. So it's both, but you have to just work through it. Somebody also earlier said that we're on sort of day one of AI, and I agree. A year ago, it was not a thing, at least in our where I am at, and now it's all we talk about, and it's a big tool. So it's a combination, and you do have to make sure that you use it to your advantage, but you also have to have that oversight.
In our company, we're one of the biggest media agencies. They're forcing us to do training, get certified, really move up the curve. But with any technology adoption, there's going to be early adopters and not. We had an interesting conversation last night that people who were already in the graphics arts actually are late adopters, like me. And I drew this with pen and ink because I did not want to think that a computer could do a better job, whereas people who've never drawn a picture in their life all of a sudden are sending all sorts of crazy things. How do you deal with that? How do you bring the whole team up to speed so that they know the rules, but also know the tools and can contribute within this system? Because, AI can be a guardrail, but if they're not using AI properly, they could be running amok or doing crazy things.
Training is key. And so we have virtual training. We've had boot camps. We've had third parties come in. We've also been fortunate that we've been able to give everybody in the organization a license to Copilot, ChatGPT, and said, just go forth and try it. And I think that's the big thing. When I've talked to other organizations, there are folks that kind of put their head in the sand and say, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm too small of an organization. You can't do that. If the lack of hair does not date me, I will not do that. But I used to, before I came into this industry, I worked in retail and e-commerce, and I had a boss once who said, the internet e-commerce is just a fad. It'll pass. Unfortunately, that organization's now out of business, and that's probably why. This is not a fad. This is going to just keep growing and evolving, and so the people that say, I don't have to deal with it, are wrong. You have to do it. And so, really what we're seeing is, and it's kind of a change, really, as we are hiring people now out of college and school, they're actually more advanced than folks that have been in the organization for 20 years, which does not always happen. I have a 15-year-old. I picked him up from school yesterday, and he showed me on the way home AI videos that he had created of him and his friends, and he turned it into a car and did all these things. And he said, yeah, it took me about 2 seconds. And he's probably way further ahead, honestly, at 15 than some of the folks in our organization that have been there for 30 years. So.
This is not perfect, but this is a picture of some of the best practices in AI content supply chain. Some of the things that we see best-in-class organizations doing are using AI to pick up on signals and needs. And we heard a lot about this today or this week about, wait a second, these are the search terms. Let's feed them into the content engine, sometimes in real time. Let's cut up videos and pull out videos and thought leadership. So signals are interesting. Production assessments, writing briefs, or putting some straw man ideas on the world. The actual production process, some people just use it for ideation, others for refinement, and so on and so forth. One of the things that I'm excited about is testing. Does the idea stink or not? We heard today in a lot of the panels about AI panels.
Yep.
You can draw a picture of the person in Pittsburgh you're talking to and actually get a fairly reliable and very quick feedback on which ideas are good and bad. Centralized asset management intrigues me. If you loaded a digital asset management with great pictures of Willie Stargell and all the right Pittsburgh Pirates and the right logos and the right colors, would that ensure you wouldn't get that P? Are you controlling what content that is being used, or are you just going out in the world and picking things up? And obviously publishing. This is a process. No one does all of these things, but I thought this might stimulate conversation of areas that you are or are potentially using AI as part of your team. Are any of these things jumping out at you, or things that you're trying?
Yes, so some of these things we aspire to, but some that we do today. So one part of my team has to update our website. And so on that site, as we talk about what content we should add, we have begun to put in all the search queries, all the reviews that we get, everything on our chatbot, to make sure that as we add content to our site, as we add new pages to our website, that we're adding the right things. And so that has also sped things up, as opposed to just looking at a report of how many page views and trying to maximize the ones that get the most views. So that has definitely sped things up. You talked about personas, so we have multiple personas of the ideal person that would bank with us, and so we do feed those personas into an AI and then run ads against it and sort of do that role-playing focus group idea of, does this advertisement, does this content, does this video, whatever, will it appeal to this persona? Not only tell me why it would, but tell me why it wouldn't, and then we do tweak it that way. We have now just getting into some of the data and reporting piece of it to speed that process up of, tell me all these clicks that I'm getting and impressions and how many actually convert to loans and deposits, and help me figure out what's working, what's not working, time of day, channel, because those, there's more channels every day. How do we make sure that we're maximizing the right ones?
The feedback loop is amazing. One of my best friends and the smartest people I know, Professor Parush Papatla, he did an amazing thing. He literally ran millions of ads through a performance meter, and he could put up two pictures, one red, one blue, one with a bird, one with a cat, and ask which one performed better. And it's shocking. Color, location, tones, you just don't know what's going to respond. Yeah. But having a closed loop process, as you pointed out, is critical to getting that feedback loop. Because even an AI may recommend something, but the humans on the other end are going to tell you whether it responded, and you just never know. You never know what it's going to be. Is anybody in charge of this process in your organization, or is it a coalition, or just or anarchy? How would you describe it?
It depends what day it is. It's the marketing folks, which report up through me, but we also have to bring in other players. I mean, our IT team is intimately involved, obviously. IT owns AI from the organization. Compliance is also involved, our IT security team. So while we might own the actual process, the strategy, the architecture is definitely dispersed across the organization to make sure that no one is doing the wrong thing. And we also talk about down the road the ability to be able to use AI to push out to the folks that are in the field, our branch managers, our sales teams. Maybe one day let them create more of their own content but making sure the guide rails are there so that they use the right logo, the right font, things like that. We're not there yet, and that gives us a little bit of heartburn, but I think one day we'll actually be there.
Is there any way AI is gluing these people together, getting them to talk to each other, getting them feedback? Is there a platform or a system or a campfire that these people can gather around? Is there anything that can foster this type of collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, we have AI town halls, we have AI working groups, and so while it might not be a platform per se, we have those meetings where people provide input, and then we actually take those inputs and put it into AI and figure out which groups are working together, which ones should work together.
Do they all use one system, or do they use a lot of different systems?
We have multiple. ChatGPT is a big one. Copilot are some of the organization-wide ones, but depending on the line of business, we use Jasper, which is a AI built specifically for content creation. It allows us to bring in brand guidelines and add our voice to it. Our loans team has one specifically for loans data. Our compliance team has one for, just for compliance. So there's some that overarch the organization, and some that are very specific. But people can talk and figure out which engine, which tool might help them the best.
So there's another picture here that I like. I'm just blowing through slides, and I apologize, but this one intrigues me. So, I do a lot of RevOps, a lot of this productivity, and a lot of CFOs will tell me, don't talk about partial FTEs until you fire somebody. We haven't saved the money. Fine, but the reality is, the nature of a co-pilot is, I'm helping people with part of the job. What I'm seeing as an exercise, which I think is pretty cool, and this is illustrative, is draw an org chart. Take all the roles in this process and start to define human roles and robot or AI roles. And I think the language here and the creativity of, wait a second, I can have brand police, creative ops analyst, a twin reviewer. I can make a clone of you with all your values and sensibilities and do it. I mean, we do this with red team reviews and RFPs, right? We have different enemy teams and whatnot, just looking at it from different angles. So creating a clone of you to police you would be kind of cool. Or an evil twin, that would be really nice. Workflow orchestrator. Maybe there could be a robot person AI who just makes sure that this stuff keeps moving. A project management overlord, or a damn librarian. I really like some of the best practices that we heard about today, which is this got old, or guess what? Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. Let's make sure we refer to them as Super Bowl champs, or they lost the Super Bowl, or a law changed, or an interest rate changed, or a product feature changed, and I can actually proactively go out in the organization and say, is this good? Can you fix it? I'm worried about it. Or some people talked about things getting too old, which apparently is really, really critical with GEO. And a damn librarian could just nudge and remind people that this thing hasn't changed and it's getting stale. Let's spruce it up. Any of these roles resonate, or are you guys thinking like this as we think about AI as a teammate as opposed to an abstract productivity solution?
We're definitely thinking about it. We haven't implemented it, and to your point, today we probably have all of those roles, but it's a quarter or an eighth of someone's job, and because it's that small of a percentage, things get missed. And so a great example just happened this week. We had a separate app for people to manage their cards, their credit cards, and we moved that app into our regular banking app, and so we had to make sure that all the content changed, because no longer do you have to download the app. And we missed some stuff. And if we and so we thought we caught it all. But if we had an agent, an AI partner that could have scanned the website a little bit better, we would have caught those things. And so and the reason why was the person who was in charge, they're busy, right? They were working on other stuff and just didn't see the page. So having these roles, I think is going to happen. And it's going to happen, I think, fairly quickly, that you'll be able to easily do that.
If anybody here hires agencies, and the old way they hire agencies, who's the team that's going to support me? What are the different roles? How many hours? Well, I know agencies
Yeah.
are starting to splice in some AI people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're necessarily designating that they're really AI people, but if you think about it, if you saw a proposal from an agency doing work for you, I'd just apply a multiplier going, I can look at those jobs and say, AI is doing all, some, or part of that job.
Yep.
And you're not going to pay AI $300 an hour. So I just think that's kind of a mindset. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, my proposals are going to get scrutinized, and there's a give and take. But I think that is really interesting. Well, look, you're at the leading edge. You've been pretty open, but I'd love to hear from the audience. Does anybody have an org chart like this? Has anybody designated discrete roles for AI versus the abstraction that, they kind of save me time on this and kind of save me time on that? Any best practices that anyone might share here? Well, I know we have cocktails next door. I think there's still a few puppets and trinkets over there. You've been a great audience.
Thanks.
But I would love any questions for Bill or me as we round this out? I hope this was a decent presentation. I mean, this kind of caps a lot of what we heard today. I know everyone's fatigued, including me. But, well, look, we're going to be here. I really appreciate you coming all the way from wonderful Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
And thanks so much to the audience.
Yeah, thanks.
That kind of concludes it, but I think that wrapped a lot of, we didn't do too much branding here today, but it tied together some of the concepts. I think everybody's going to see if there's an air traffic controller in your town ready to receive your plane or get on to a drink. But thank you so much. This was a great conference. We look forward to seeing you next year, and let's keep the conversation going. So thank you.
Thank you.